Good afternoon, everyone. It is 1 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started with today's webinar. Welcome to the NGA's Aeronautical Dissemination Team's monthly webinar series. My name is Alex, and I'm excited to have all of you with us today. This is our first webinar of 2022, so welcome to all of our new attendees. We're really happy to have you joining us today. If you enjoy the webinar series, please be sure to pass the invite on to others so that they can join us as well. Today, we're going to be talking about and having some demonstrations on our new Android capabilities, the new release, the Aerodata server, and also being able to use user maps within Aeroapp. As a reminder, the webinar is being recorded and will be stored on the aeroapp.info website and our YouTube page for later reference. So let's go ahead and get started with some introduction. As I mentioned, my name's Alex, and I am the Aeronautical Dissemination Deputy Mission Manager. For those that haven't joined us before, I've been with NGA for about 3.5 years now and started out as an area analyst working en route and airfield data for the United States, Canada, and a few South American countries. So at this time, I will hand it over to Bruce.
I'm Bruce. If you see my email, sometimes it says Edwin. Bruce is my middle name. That's what I go by. I am the mission manager for the dissemination of aeronautical data, which includes the Aeroapp. I've been on the Aeroapp program since 2013, and I've been at the agency for 17 years now. I think it's the best job at the agency, so I'm going to hang on to it until I retire. Alex and I are here to answer any questions for you. Not just during the webinars. Feel free to call us and reach out. We'll share our contact information with you, and we appreciate you being here. Hilton?
Good afternoon. My name is Hilton Goldstein. I'm the founder and CEO of Hilton Software, and it's great working with NGA on Aeroapp technology, and we love to get feedback. So any feedback you have for us, definitely pass that along, either now, during the webinar at the end, or via email, to Bruce and Alex.
And hi everyone, my name is Nicole. I'm a quality assurance engineer at Hilton Software. And I'll be demonstrating some features later on of Aeroapp and ADS.
Thanks, Hilton and Nicole. Now let's run through some quick rules of engagement for the webinar today. So as with most virtual events, please remember to mute your microphones during the demonstration unless asking a question. We do welcome questions throughout, so please feel free to speak up or enter your questions in the chat. Our team will be monitoring the chat and addressing any questions that come up. If we're unable to answer your question during the webinar, like Bruce said, please feel free to reach out. We are happy to answer those later on. We're going to start with some conversation today just before diving into our demonstrations. So 2021 kept our team really busy with a lot of customer engagement opportunities. It was really beneficial for our team to get out on the road and interact with a lot of our customers and users again after COVID. We established this webinar series and our monthly newsletters as a way to communicate regularly with you all, and it seems to be working pretty well. We also attended a lot of events, and we'll be back at those events this year as well. So please feel free to stop by and say hello. It's always nice to put faces with names and meet our customers while we're out. We also had the opportunity to roll out our Aeroapp Fundamentals course with Hilton Software and provide some training to our users. So we're excited to continue all of these efforts in 2022. At this time, I will hand it over to Bruce to kick off our conversation about Android before Hilton Software provides the demo of the new Android release.
What I wanted to do is just talk a little bit about Android and where we see things going. And we actually have someone dialed in. Chef, are you out there?
Yep, I'm here.
Praying you would be, because what I want to share with people is what other services are doing. I know the Navy, Marines, and the Army are really looking hard at Android because it's expanded capabilities that you don't have with iOS. I'm an iOS fan myself, but I realize that there's things I just can't do on iOS because the way Apple controls things. They don't like sharing data between applications, whereas Android, we have a lot of customers out there that are using the TAC software, Tactical Assault Kit, and also using Aeroapp on the same tablets. Chef, feel free at any time to share with what the Marines are doing right now with Android, Aeroapp, and TAC software.
Sure, absolutely. So this is Major Sal Howdige, call sign Chef. I am the Headquarters Marine Corps Aviation Digital Interoperability Lifecycle Manager. In that portfolio, we handle the mag tabs as the Marine Corps' electronic kneeboard and electronic flight bag. It is, I say it that way specifically because it is a combination of those two things and makes it distinct from a few different use cases the other services have pursued for their capabilities. That is primarily because our going in requirement from probably about when Bruce started the job was that we were going to have one device in the cockpit, and it wasn't going to be multiple devices for multiple different things, and that one device was going to connect to the aircraft and then connect to the data links that were on that aircraft. We are absolutely making strides in getting there. We have a program of record under PMA 209 out at NavAir called the MagTaf Agile Network Gateway Link. It is a commodities-based program under which MagTaf is a subcomponent or a product within that umbrella program of record. We are a threshold for the V22, and the 53 kilo and C-130 will be started in FY23. Expanding fairly quickly, related products on the H1, they use the same tablet, but a slightly different set of equipment to inside of the aircraft for their data links and their mesh network manager or their onboard processing, and related set of equipment for the GCS and the MQ-9 Sky Tower capability that we have on our UAS systems. That said, we have about 5,000 or so devices fielded to all of our active duty and reserve aircrew. We have about 2,000 or so other devices that are fielded to Marines on the ground that interact with those aircrew. So think about like airborne companies or air assault companies that work with aircrew fairly regularly. And then all of our MUs have the same devices. Our use of Aero is driven primarily by the fact that we want to interface with the aircraft, which is not been an easy thing to do with iOS. You know, we are years down this line, so we've already invested a fair amount of money and effort in this environment. I say that specifically because, you know, there's always a question on like why we aren't using iOS, because it is so pervasive in the commercial side. And the answer really is that we are kind of stuck between a rock and a hard spot in that we need a tactical application like TAC or Kill Switch, and neither of those exist very well or whole on the iOS side. I know that there is an ITAC variant, but it is not a feature-to-feature comparison of. And that said, Marine Corps Aviation is a tactical focused organization, so the EFB functions are kind of secondary to our use case and employment of the MagTab. It's great to have it, but it's definitely not the primary reason we have the device. That's about where I should stop. I will say thank you to Hilton and the team there for kind of supporting our unique request to deploy Aero. You've made it substantially easier for our young co-pilots that do most of the ready room management of our devices to know the devices are actually updated and that they're working correctly. So I appreciate you guys doing that effort, and we hope that we can continue to expand that as we mature further.
Chef, there was a question in the chat asking why decide that the requirement is for a single device.
It came from the fact that there are limitations, and there are limitations with what the Marine Corps can afford for the most part. And the more devices that we allow to proliferate and the more variation that we allow to proliferate from NavAir, the more we are going to put Marines in a position where they're trying to juggle multiple things simultaneously. I know pilots and aircrew pride themselves on being able to multitask, but trying to spread your attention between 3 to 4 different interfaces simultaneously seems like a horrendous idea for a single place cockpit. And I'm a 53 guy, so even me with a co-pilot and an able crew behind me are probably still not in a good position to spread our attention between a flight station, a kneeboard, EFB, and then anything else that's tactically related that we're trying to employ that weapon system. Add to that the fact that we want to put electromagnetic or electronic support kind of capabilities on all of our aircraft, and now you're adding a whole nother layer of complexity, another set of interfaces, and it gets pretty unwieldy pretty quickly. So that was kind of what my predecessors saw eventually happening, and as a result, wrote the requirement the way they did.
One of the things we've discovered with Android is anybody that wants to classify an iPad or a device, it's much easier done on an Android device than it is on iOS, because you can have a SD cards to load your data. You can connect them to secure computers. You can do communications onto them that otherwise would be classified. So I think that has a lot to do with one of the reasons the Army is doing it as well. They want to be able to classify devices easier and still load data.
Yeah, that's absolutely a useful feature for us. We try to do as much of our management at the squadron or unit level as possible so that we give them the most flexibility they need. Classification of devices is always a question, and Marines kind of want to know the TTPs of how to best handle that. And to your point, classify a set of SD cards and minimally classify the number of devices that we field so that you have the bare number the bare minimum number of them classified, and then the remainder of them to train with in unclassified areas when you have to. As we get to a point where all of our aircraft are networked, and then all of our devices are networked to those aircraft, then that's going to become less and less of an issue. They're all going to be classified at that point once they touch Link 16, really. So it'll be less and less of a concern in the future. Yeah, I think classification is definitely something to consider. And while I still have the mic, then I'll say that to your last point there, Bruce, on ATAC and MagTab. I know that we used to be the primary customer of Killswitch. The Marine Corps is starting to come around to TAC and finding ways to embrace it more and more. MagTab has always been one of the early adopters and kind of let users decide what they wanted to use. And I think that is starting to expand outside of just our little program, so that the programs related to us or on the periphery that we are communicating to are also using TAC more and more. And as a result, the integrations that you guys have been doing make it even easier to make that embrace.
Does anybody else out there have any experiences or anything they'd like to say about using Androids or why they're not using Android?
Hello, good evening. This is Major Verbraken from the Belgian Air Force. We are currently as well in the process of fielding tablets. We're looking into the classification of those tablets. I have a question about the MagTab and ATAC. Did you modify the hardware of your tablets for the classification or not?
Negative. We did not. One of the things we went into this for an affordability reason is that we use an entirely commercial device. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the NIAP process within the Marine or within the United States, but it certifies the chipset, the device, and then a little bit of the supply chain security on it as well. By buying NIAP devices, we are doing our best to assure that we're not getting corrupted devices along the way. And what that does for us then is allow us to leave them intact and not take the Bluetooth or cameras out and things like that. I've seen other programs kind of make that demand. One of the unique things about MagTab is that we load our crypto keys on it for the Wi-Fi using the camera and a QR code. So the disabling the camera is not an option from the start. Once we explained how all of that was going to look to our authorizing official within the service and explained all of the mitigating controls that were around it, between physical security of the device, as I described, the supply chain measures that were going into it, and then the 2 layers of VPN for the Wi-Fi, that's a much more palatable amount of risk, and the camera constraints or the typical modification arguments start to fall away when seen in the larger context.
Any other comments or questions about Android before we move on to the next subject?
All right, great. So up next, I will hand it over to Nicole and Hilton to provide the demonstration for the Android Aerodata server and user map.
Okay, thanks, Alex. And just give me a second and I'll share my screen for Aeroapp. Okay, great. So first I'll talk about 2 new Android features that center around the route panel, and those are adding air refueling routes and adding points from E6B to the route. So as you may know, Aeroapp has an air refueling route feature overlay that you can enable, and it displays air refueling routes on the moving map. You can select them and view more information about them. So in this new release, you can actually add these routes to the route panel. And to do so, you expand the route panel, tap on the route button, and you'll see a new option under the add section called air refueling route. So you'd select that, and here's where you would enter the air refueling route that you would like to add to your route. Once you start typing, you notice that the list populates on its own. So you can actually just select the one that you want from here, and it'll move on to selecting which points you want to add for the refueling route, air refueling route. The way it works is you select an entry point and an exit point. Just for demo purposes, I want this point to be my entry point and this one to be my exit point. And you'll see that all the points between are selected. And you can just add the route to the moving map. The air refueling route on the moving map and also on the route panel. And once it's on the route panel, you can expand and view each point individually. So the next feature that I wanted to talk about is adding points from E6B to the route panel. So to The idea behind this was to allow users to easily add points to the route instead of manually typing them in. So to do that, we select the E6B option from the main menu up here, which opens the E6B. You would select the coordinates tab, which is already selected in this case, and just enter any lat long. And you can see the two buttons, the insert into route and insert at the end of route, are automatically enabled. So you can actually insert this coordinate into your route, but you can also select any of the output fields. Let's take MGRS, for example, and add this MGRS to the route. So let's say I want to add it at the end of the route. So you'll see a pop-up at the bottom that lets you know that it was added. You can see it already on the moving map. You expand the route panel and it's at the end of the route. So this is just an easier way, instead of, going to the add button on the route panel and manually entering the MGRS, you can just easily just tap from E6B and it adds it to your route. Are there any questions on these two features? Okay, so I know ADS was next on the list, but since we're already here, I can show you user maps and then I'll move on into ADS. So when it comes to maps, we know we have the VFR and IFR maps you can view on the moving map. You can also sideload your own maps, and Aeroapp is able to display those, which those are the ones we refer to as user maps. To view user maps, they have to be in MB tile format, and I have sideloaded a couple to show you. So what you would do is you would tap on the maps button at the bottom of the moving map. Notice this is the same place you would go to enable VFR and IFR maps. You'd scroll down to the bottom, and that's where you have your user map section. These two are ones that they're a TAC and a flyaway that I sideloaded just for this demo. So you just enable it, it moves to show you with the user map that you selected, zoom in, zoom out, whatever your preferences on the zoom level. So I mentioned you can sideload the user maps, but you can also download them from ADS, which kind of leads me into explaining ADS a little bit. But before I move on from Aeroapp, are there any questions on user maps or any of the other two features I talked about? One of our other products is ADS, which stands for Aerodata Server. ADS allows our users to get data on Aeroapp easier and faster. So
Nicole?
instead of siloing data, yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't get off mute. I just wanted to let everybody know that we just released a new version of Android, and it was posted out earlier this week.
Yes, and those two features I mentioned along with user maps is on there. ADS. So yeah, it allows users to get data for Aeroapp easier and faster. So instead of siloing that data like I did with user maps, you can actually download them from ADS over a local Wi-Fi network. So I'll just show you real quick. This is an ADS that we have in-house here. I'm just hitting the IP address, so just to show you. So once you log into ADS, you're taken to the dashboard page. And this is where you can view information about the ADS, see the connections and the bandwidth, and of course, import data. So you can add core data based on the regions that you enable here at the bottom. And you can also add any maps and EPOLs and other data, which is just the Earth-based map that we use for moving map and giant reports, and upload them into ADS. And so I keep going back to user maps. So we were talking about user maps and I said you can download them from ADS. In order to download them or to upload them to ADS, this button, the add user files, that's what you would select in order to upload any or import any MB tiles that you want to be able to download later. And if your user map is in GeoTIFF format, you can use the conversion feature that we have in order to convert the GeoTIFF into an MB tile and then view them on Aeroapp. So now that I've imported core data and user maps and anything else that I want to add to ADS, the data tab at the top, that's going to list all the current data that is on ADS, all the currently stored data on ADS. And here, so you can see that I have my cycle data, I have some maps, EPOLs, other data, which as I mentioned is the base map and giant reports, and some user maps. And you can also upload PDF files on here. It doesn't have to be MB tiles. You can also remove data with the little trash can icon if you wish to. Another way to add data to ADS is to download data from AWS. So there's a lot of acronyms here, so bear with me. So you can download data from AWS and store it on ADS. So in the settings tab, you can set your AWS credentials and update ADS with the latest data on AWS. You can also set up a time for ADS to routinely update itself. You don't have to manually update it. So it's on the next update here. You set up a time time for ADS to automatically update with those credentials that you set from AWS. So while we're on the settings tab, I'll point out a couple features that you might notice, like this Aeroapp upload feature. So with this, users are allowed to upload data from their tablet or even the iPad into ADS. So if you have some data on Aeroapp that you wish to upload to ADS, you can enable this feature on ADS. You can set a time frame to 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or up to an hour to make ADS available for upload. So it's kind of like enabling your Bluetooth to be able to transfer data from a tablet to another tablet. Then you would just, let's say I want to set it for 30 minutes, you would save it, and ADS lets you know up to what time you have to upload any data.
Hey, Nicole, I'm just going to jump in quickly, and just for those of you who are not familiar with ADS upload, so the concept here is, let's say you have a bunch of pilots who do not have the current cycle, but you have the current cycle on your tablet, whether it's iOS or Android. You can, the idea here is you basically take your data, you upload it securely to ADS, then everyone who needs that data can download it directly from ADS. So it provides a great way, for example, if one pilot lands on a ship and he's the only person that has the data, he can upload it to ADS, and then everyone on the ship can download it from ADS. So it's a great way to distribute. It also follows on with our implementation of AirDrop on iOS, just making it easier for pilots to share data. And the last thing I just want to mention here is when you do share data like this, whether it's AirDrop or uploading to ADS, the signature file that's generated when the data is generated here at Hilton Software basically gets carried forward with the data. So it doesn't matter who you're getting the data from, whether it's being uploaded or you're getting AirDrop from one iOS device to another iOS device. The data is always guaranteed to be secure and accurate when it gets to your device. If someone does want to mess with the zip file, for example, just like in normal transmission, it will not be verified. And so you can always be assured that whether you are grabbing data from ADS and it doesn't matter who uploaded it, even if it was someone trying to be malicious, that the data has to be accurate, because otherwise Aeroapp will not accept the data because the signature won't match. So I do want to mention that it's not a security vulnerability because some unknown person is uploading the data. They have to upload the zip and the sig file, and the app will do all that for you. But I just wanted to mention that too. So ADS upload is a great feature for sharing data from one iPad. It can, I might have an iOS device, someone else might have an Android device, and you can share that. You just have to use ADS as sort of the hub, so to speak. So just wanted to add that. Thanks.
Right.
I want to chime in here real quick. There was some questions. One of them was, aside from ADS, is there other ways to create MB tiles? Our Intel guys typically build up map sets for us. They might not have the ability in the Intel to make MB tiles. Other than Aerodata server, is there a way to create MB tiles, third-party softwares?
Yeah, that's a great point. So all the data files that we use are already industry standard type data files. So for example, we don't have our own proprietary file format. We use SQLite where we need to. We use MB tiles, typical signature files, things, JSON files, whatever we need to make it work. But we don't have any proprietary file format. As Nicole mentioned, you can use ADS to do the conversion, but you don't have to. You can use, and I'm trying to remember, but there are a whole bunch of third-party applications out there. Some of them are probably free. Some of them you might have to pay for. But I would just search for applications online. And Bruce, I'm not sure if you know specific names. I've just gone blank here for a second. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's a standard MB tiles file format. It's very, very, very common. So if you have a GeoTIFF or a GeoPDF and many, many other Mr. SIDS, or you can really use the input can be of any type of really format that's sort of geospatial type data, and these third-party applications can create an appropriate MB tiles, and then that MB tiles will just, as Nicole said, just be a user map you can just drop in. So I'm just trying to remember what those third-party applications are.
I believe one was Map Tiler, wasn't it?
Right, Map Tiler is one, and there are others. I know Map Tiler is actually pretty fast. Yeah, but like I say, the important part here is just you can find any third-party application that'll generate MB tiles, and you can read it into Aeroapp. Nothing proprietary.
So this is Major Howdigi from the Marine Corps again. I asked that question. The reason I ask, and I would hope that you guys would make a recommendation on a particular program. Left to their own devices, Marines will figure it out as you just described. However, that's going to incur more and more variables, and they're going to, as you said, they're going to go find a free one, and they're going to download it from an unreputable site, and then we're going to introduce other variables and vectors factors. So if you recommend one, then it's hopefully going to drive them to that answer instead of others. That's all I was hoping for you to say. Thank you.
And I was using Tyler for a while myself before Aerodata Server could do it. And they have a free one, of course, but it's limited in size of the file. But for just a few dollars, you have one that can do unlimited size maps.
And I'm pretty sure that what MapTiler uses and what we use in ADS is actually the same software, the actual core code that does the conversion. So you should get the same results. Just MapTiler and some of these other third parties just put a pretty user interface on top. That's kind of what we did with ADS. So if you use either one, that's fine. But yeah, as Bruce says, probably MapTiler is the best one. But then I'm not familiar. I'm not sure if MapTiler would, for example, read in Mr. SIDS and other. I'm not sure all the different input formats it can read. So there may not be an optimal one because you may get some maps in GeoTIFF, some in PDF, GeoPDFs, some in Mr. SIDS, some in other formats. And I would need to go back and look. And obviously, they're updating all these apps all the time. So I can certainly go back and look at MapTiler Pro, but that's probably where I'd start. I'd use Bruce's recommendation on that certainly as a starting point. It is pretty fast. It's pretty good. And I do recommend paying the few dollars to upgrade because then you're not limited by the size of your file.
And Chef, I just repeated that question so everyone else could get the answer as well. And there was another question: is all the data replicated on Cyprenet? Yes, all the Aeroapp data is replicated on Cyprenet.
Is it exactly the same structure here as we're seeing with the AWS Cypher?
Yes, it's the exact same data
Perfect.
set. There's nothing
Thanks,
different.
appreciate
No
I'm
problem.
sorry. Is it the way to interact with it exactly the same, or is it different?
It'd be like going to the ACES website on Nipronet and just downloading individual files. Then you're going to have to sideload them or put them in
Okay.
your Aerodata server.
Okay, so it's not quite as streamlined.
No, you can't connect directly to Cypher with your tablet and download the data from it. Though if we got enough customers going that direction, that's definitely something we could look into doing.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, so I just wanted to show you guys real quick another feature on here is the HTTPS only feature. This is going to be in the new release of ADS. This is where users will be able to store ADS in a secure network. So right now I can show you this ADS that I'm demoing is not a secure server, and the browser will actually tell you that it's not. With that little warning in the address bar, it'll tell you the connection is not secure. So with the new HTTPS only feature, you'll need a certificate in order to make ADS a secure server. You can obtain a certificate from a systems admin or an IT department. Once you have that, you can set this option to yes, and then upload your certificate by tapping the change button here and tapping save at the bottom. And then ADS becomes a secure server, and the address bar will actually display a little lock icon telling you that you're on a secure network. And when you upload or download data from ADS, you're downloading through a secure ADS server. And that's going to be on the new release. And that's basically it for the ADS, unless there's other questions. I only did a couple things. So, all right. So Alex, you can take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. All right. So I am going to pull the slide deck back up. All right. So we always like to highlight that if anyone has any questions or runs into a problem with Aeroapp or Aerodata Server, please visit aeroapp.info, and you will find the support tab up in the top right-hand corner where you can submit a ticket under Contact Us. They'll just provide some brief information about the issue that you're having and your contact info, and a representative from Hilton Software will receive the request and work with you directly to resolve that problem. So at this time, we will open it up to Q&A. We would also really like to know what webinar topics or information you all would like to see presented in future webinars. This helps us know what's most important to you all, our customer, and helps us tailor these events to you. So for those that don't know, Aeroapp is designed for DoD customers. We take all of your comments and requests, and we put it back into the application to make it specific to you all. So we want to do the same thing with our webinars and our newsletters, and we just want to make sure that we are getting the best, most applicable information out to you all. So at this time, I will open it up to any questions, comments, requests that anyone has.
Hello, PJ Gonzalez here. At the very beginning, that one of the first slides, it said that there was some integration there on this release with ATAC. And I'm very unfamiliar with ATAC, but I'm about to have to become more familiar. I was just curious what those integration efforts were.
Chef, are you
Yeah, so our the depth of our integration with it's not necessarily the Aero app itself, but the Aero data, and using the flip data loaded onto, blanking on the name of the plugin within ATAC, but you basically load all of the Aero data on top of your ATAC application, and in doing so, then you turn your ATAC into like a poor man's Aero or a ground guy's Aero. It's not bad for rotary aviators because they're doing a lot of integration with ground guys. It's not ideal for probably like TAC air aviation because that's a lot more EFE kind of oriented, but that's my 2 cents as a pilot myself.
And you have a contractor, Kranz Technology, that's working with you and doing this integration?
They do all of our integration on MagTab, and they sustain the environment for both of those together.
Those two other questions out there. One was, do you have any of the data on any SAP network? And I didn't know what that was. It's special access programs. I personally am not familiar with anybody putting them on there. There's no reason you couldn't take the data, push them on there. If anybody else has some info on that, feel free to chime in. Also, when will the 1801 filing capability be released? Hilton, Nicole, did one of you want to address that one?
Sorry, Bruce, we were just discussing here, but is that the FAA filing that we're working on now? Carla, do you want to comment on that one?
Sure. So filing a flight plan will be available on the iOS platform with this upcoming release. That should be coming out end of this month, I believe.
And that's FAA filing and also the 1801 military filing for international?
I believe so. FAA and DoD will be available to file flight plans. And I believe we did include that 1801.
Hey, Bruce, it's Bill Geiser. Hey, just to follow up on the flight plans that Hilton created for us or I should say the form that they created is an ICAO flight plan form. The ICAO flight plan form and the 1801 mirror each other. So it will effectively meet both requirements. That's one of the reasons we went into a lot of in-depth in Block 18 for the other information to make it a lot easier to populate.
Excellent. That's good information, Bill. And for those of you who don't know Bill, Bill's with FAA Flight Check. Someone responded to the question regarding special access programs and transfer it to that network. And they do that every 28 days. Back to you, Hilton.
Yeah, just if there are any other questions, we'd be happy to take it. But in terms of the flight plan, I think Carla described that and Bill described that.
Is there any suggestions out there for future webinars, hot subjects, directions you'd like to see us go? Something that we are looking at right now. There's rumors that Windows in the future will be able to run Android applications. If that's the case, we'll look into retiring the Windows version because the Android version we have is more robust, but we'll have to get our customers' input on that before we'd ever retire one of the versions.
There was a question about additional training videos being produced. So we are working closely with Hilton and his team to create new videos for all of the releases that come out. There will be little clips about how to use the new feature or information about them. So those will be added to our YouTube page and aeroapp.info as those become available. So for those that don't know, our Aeroapp Fundamentals course is available on aeroapp.info under training, and it's also available on YouTube if you search Aeroapp.
There's also a question, us giving a class on user geo packages, and we can definitely put that on our list for your general information. If you go on to Map of the World at NGA, you can also download geo packages from there as well. Adding pictures to pins. Carla, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can add a picture to a pin currently, can you not? Or no, I'm sorry, that was is on our list to do. You can add it to other things, but not to pins yet.
Yeah, that's on our list.
Can you give?
I believe you can add pictures to pins right now. But just regular pins. Android has maritime pins. Those you can't add pictures to. You can either take a picture or import a picture from your documents.
Yeah, there's a question. Go ahead.
Can I get a class on how to do that? I believe that question for the pictures to pins was related to that as a suggestion.
Hilton and Nicole, there's a question about whether the ADS update will include a conversion from GeoPDF to MB tiles, as well as converting GeoTIFF to MB tiles.
The new release won't have the GeoPDF, only GeoTIFF. But we can definitely talk about that and have added onto
That's actually Sorry, Nicole. That's actually going to be not this release coming up, but the next one. It's already
Okay.
the statement of work.
Another question was, are jogs available? There is some jogs available. We're working on those. We actually just did some nav plan charts for Eastern Europe, and we did some jogs, but they're limited in nature in that area. But absolutely, we have been working on nav plan charts, and we're working through each of the regions to start converting those to MB tiles. What is the status of the military map library, or the military library? Still didn't say it right. Map library.
All right, I'll just jump in, and if Carla and Nicole want to add. Yeah, so this one was interesting because it started off being where we were basically separating. We had a design that was probably a little more complicated than it needed to be, and then we realized we could really simplify it, and so we had to update our tools and the app and our various data structures and so on. So the good news now is that we've got all that figured out, and the actual feature itself is pretty much in beta, and we're in a process now where we're just testing and so on. So soon we should be able to send that out. And if someone does want to get a beta copy of Aeroapp, just let Bruce or Alex know, and we'd be happy to get that out to you, and you can start trying things like the map library or else is coming out soon. But if we can get people testing and part of our beta program and just get feedback, we'd be happy to do that. But yeah, map library is good, and it's just going to be a good way for us to be able to distribute maps to people. So that's it.
And regarding the map library, this is something that was suggested to us a while back, and the idea is to be able to host maps out there people can reach, obviously. But also, a good example is just today, Fort Rucker, Alabama released a new local area flying map. They want to post it out where everyone on their Aero app down at Fort Rucker can download it. We'd like to do that as well for other places. Challenge is currency of those maps. We have a reliable source down at Fort Rucker who maintains that map and would push us a new one each time. But let's say Nellis Air Force Base or Fort Campbell, they post one out there. We cannot guarantee its currency because it wasn't created by us and maintained by us. So when we create this library, there's going to be disclaimers out there. But the goal is for each base that has one hosted out there that they have a release date on that posted, so you know how old that map is. So if you're going to fly from Fort Rucker to Fort Campbell, you download their local area flying map and you fly there. So you have it before you get there. Do we have any other questions out there? Any other suggestions for future webinars? Is there any customers out there think they might like to have a site visit from our team?
Bruce, this is Major
nothing.
Howdy. Yeah, we'll take you up on a site visit, either at our weapons school or at our integrators lab. Outside of just user feedback, I think we could probably get some useful feedback on the engineering side.
That'd be great. Yeah, definitely shoot us an email.
Okay, great. I appreciate the offer and expect for new coordination later.
We have a question in the chat. It says, will there be any improvements to PDF navigation in the next Aeroapp release?
I think I need a little bit more clarification when you say PDF navigation. Are you talking about georeferencing airport diagrams or approach plates?
Good morning, it's Ash Kissock here from Australia who asked that question. I'm talking with regards to PDF documentation within Aeroapp and whether including the use of hyperlinks, contents pages, etc. within PDFs.
It sounds like something we might have to have a sidebar on.
So I think this is Hilton. I think the question is about not the navigation on the map, but navigation as in within a PDF like text and doing text searches and so on.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got the finding and maybe Nicole, you can comment on that, right? The finding text and so on. What else would you be looking for in terms of the navigation within the PDF?
Well, one of the main things we'd be looking for is with the contents drop-down menu. So often a lot of PDFs have sort of contents hyperlinks that are accessible in a PDF reader, but there's nowhere to access that within Aeroapp. You can only use the text search function for the larger documents.
Okay, yeah, we'll add that to the list of things to look at, but that's a great suggestion.
All right, nothing else heard. Our team will go ahead and stay on the call until a little after 2, just in case anyone else has a question. But thank you all for attending our webinar today. We look forward to seeing you all again in March. For more information on features and updates, please be sure to visit aeroapp.info or contact our team directly at aerodistro@nga.mil. Hope everyone has a great day. Thanks.